The Yakuza Like a Dragon live-action series came out a few months ago, and I've thought about watching it, but I decided not to. Because 1, I recently had to move, so I didn't exactly have a lot of time on my hands. 2, I've only played Yakuza 0, which is the prequel to the whole series, so I did not want to possibly be spoiled of the games I have yet to play. And 3, but at least now that I've unpacked most of my stuff, I can finally start getting back into the franchise and enjoy my time hanging out with my favorite character Nishiki. Oh god damn it. As mentioned earlier, I've only played Yakuza 0, and I enjoyed it for its gripping main story and the wacky side activities, so I was raring to get back into the series. But instead of playing the first ever Yakuza game that came out for the PS2, I went with this remake called Yakuza Kiwami for the PS4, which uses the same engine as Yakuza 0. And being back in the shoes of Kiryu, the Dragon of Dojima, started making me feel nostalgic for Kamurocho, a place I've never even physically been to, as I started recognizing locales and stores that were present in the previous game.
Oh my god, it's still here.
Likewise, it was nice to see the familiar faces return, although the person that I wanted to see again the most did go a bit ham on the hair gel. However, this was okay because the game introduced me to Shinji, who starts out being a bit of a horn dog at his young age, but then you see him grow up to become very reliable and mature after the 10 years Kiryu went to prison. Oh yeah, Kiryu went to prison for murder. Well, it wasn't that Kiryu actually killed anyone, but was taking the fall for his oath brother Nishikiyama, who, in trying to defend Yumi, Kiryu, and his mutual childhood friend from their orphanage days, shoots and kills Sohei Dojima, the patriarch of the Dojima family. This leads to a downward spiral for him during the 10 years that Kiryu was in prison, given to us in detail as end of the chapter flashbacks. Which, even though I wasn't fully satisfied with the way they gave my favorite character a Joker arc, in the end I still became empathetic towards what happened to him. Although most of the flashbacks could boil down to the Dojima family man sucking Kiryu's and comparing him to Nishikiyama right in front of his face, despite the number of Dojima men Kiryu has not killed up to that point. Speaking of the story, this was a little bit of a sore spot for me this time around, as it felt a bit more padded compared to Yakuza 0's main story. For example, there's a side tangent with the informant that Kiryu knows, which seems to entail a deeper mystery, as Kiryu finds out that he was killed while investigating the truth about Dojima's murder. But then the same informant just reappears during one of the chapters with an explanation that he faked his own death, and the game doesn't really do anything beyond that. It felt like these kind of things that didn't amount to much were more common in this game. Not just that, but the side activities were a little disappointing as well. In Yakuza 0, the side activities were one of the highlights of the game for me, as they basically doubled my playtime. And they seemed to also realize how good they were, as most of the side activities in Yakuza Kiwami seem to be just taken from Yakuza 0, with even some of them getting the cut. With the most notable example being the classic Sega arcade games being absent and replaced with Mesuking, which is just a reskin of the catfights in Yakuza 0. It is especially cruel that they would taunt me with the poster of Virtua Fighter and not let me play it. So, with me complaining as much as I did, you would think that I absolutely hate the game, but this was certainly not the case. Despite my complaints, I was still very much engaged with the story that I wanted to see through to the end, and many of the callbacks to Yakuza 0 added to the nostalgia I felt about Kamurocho. For example, the Pocket Circuit Racing minigame that I spent way too much time in Yakuza 0 is still available in the same location in Kiwami. And doing the side story at the place has just seen the characters who used to frequent there all grown up, which was heartwarming to see. Not just the familiar faces, but the new characters introduced were enjoyable as well, like Shinji, whom I already mentioned before, and Haruka, who the game's plot seems to revolve around. The moments between her and Kiryu, who acts like a surrogate father to her, is very sweet and cute. And it is very wholesome seeing Kiryu trying to become a better role model for her. On top of that, the newly added Majima Everywhere, where, like the name suggests, Majima tries to fight you everywhere in more seemingly wacky scenarios than the last, satisfied my fanboy desires of wanting to see the two protagonists of the previous game interact with each other. Plus, Having Majima use different fighting styles also made me change up my fighting styles to gain the advantage and learn their pros and cons. But it bothers me that Majima's breaker style, which had a purple aura in Yakuza 0, now has a red aura in Kiwami, so this makes the game unplayable for me, and I guess I hate the game now. Visiting the Yakuza franchise again felt a little bit weird this time, because what was supposed to be a remake of the first ever Yakuza game oddly felt like it was drawing a lot from the prequel that came out years later. But seeing as how the moments that reference Yakuza 0 were one of the highlights for me in this game, with the combat system coming back allowing me to master and explore other aspects of it, like the equipable weapons that I never fully utilized in Yakuza 0, and the main story despite my gripes that was able to keep me focused till the end. Even though I can't say that I liked it as much as Yakuza 0, I can still say that I'm glad I played through Yakuza Kiwami, and say that it was a game worth playing. Also, now that I finished it, I can play Yakuza Kiwami 2 next, which has Virtua Fighter in its arcades. Let's go!
なのにどうしてさよならは